Hello and welcome back to the Bronco Wave. Today again with Bitcoin and US dollar. And in my last video I mentioned that Bitcoin might be able to generate one additional high, and Bitcoin did just that. It wanted to generate one additional high. This time we stopped at roughly $10,740. And essentially in my plan nothing has changed pretty much. I just moved this B from here up to there. And essentially the start of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 move, I also moved this up, yeah, so just to make it start from here, and we will have to see if this is the final high or if Bitcoin even extends towards $11,900, because honestly I would have expected from the end of this wave B to be a more impulsive sell-off, yeah, and right now I'm still missing this, and Bitcoin gets bought every time but then gets sold again. So if we just switch to the hourly view, yeah, to the hourly chart, I painted some trend lines a couple of days ago, and essentially they mark the range at the moment right now, yeah. So you can see this trend line, this projection from here to there, it extends all the way over, and you could see that this short spike got sold off again and nearly to the point, yeah, bounced off this trend line. So this candle body is below this trend line. Then we got up again and bounced off again off this trend line, yeah. So this is definitely some kind of restriction on the upside, and then on the downside we can see that we have this horizontal line that connects all those lows. Essentially we got some spikes down below it, but this is essentially the range here. Maybe we can place it a little bit lower, a little bit higher, but you get the idea, yeah. So this is essentially, or seems to be at least at the moment, the line where buyers buy at roughly $11,270 or something. And so this is, or has been in the last couple of days, the range for Bitcoin essentially, or the last couple of hours. And I'm very excited as to when we will leave this range, but this is usually what Bitcoin likes to do, yeah. So it goes sideways in some kind of range, and then there is a sudden spike up or a sudden spike down, and sometimes it gets rebought into the range or resold, but sometimes it's enough to trigger probably more stop losses or stop buys to generate additional potential to the upside or downside. So right now, yeah, it's still a tricky situation. We are sort of in between chairs. And as I said, I would have liked to seen a more impulsive move down, which can be clearly counted as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impulsive move. We got something like this, yeah. So you could argue 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah, maybe a 5, but this looks weird, this candle right here. So I don't know if it's because I'm on Bitstamp. Other marketplaces might list the prices a little bit different, so you could maybe get away with this count, but nonetheless, it just, yeah, it looks weird, and I will probably have to wait just a little bit longer to get a clearer pattern, and in order to make a decision on what is the preferred scenario right now. Overall, at least for the short term, yeah. So overall, I still believe this move down will come. We will probably just have to see, will it start already here, or do we go maybe one step up towards $11,900 to $12,000? This is the range I mentioned a couple of videos ago. So it's definitely a possibility at the moment, especially judging by the fact that this sell-off has not yet happened, and I would really have to like to have seen a strong impulsive move down, maybe towards this trend line, yeah, right here, something like here, and then a bounce off as a wave 2, and then a wave 3 just to crash through all of this, and then 4, 5 down, and to reach this new target, because I moved this up from here to there, yeah, this retracement pattern. or projection pattern, and you can see the new target. It was at roughly $9,200 before, and it has moved up to $9,432. So this is the 100% extension. It would be really nice for Bitcoin to go all the way down, because then we would have a really harmonic correctional pattern, yeah, from all the way up here. This move A, this move B, and a move C. So A and C having roughly or exactly the same length. So this would be a really nice correctional pattern, very harmonic, and yeah, would be a definitive point and sign for Bitcoin to generate at least some upwards potential, to generate a strong move to the upside. Right now we're just wiggling sideways, slightly upwards. So yeah, it's especially this range up here. So what will happen? Do we break down? Yeah, do we break below 11,260? And do we go above 11,550? So roughly this $300 range is right now the deciding factor, and we will have to see how the market participants decide on this. But I'm still going with my preferred scenario. Of course, there are different possibilities as to how this can unfold. We can see we have a cluster of lines that meet right here. So this naturally could be a point which could generate some potential for Bitcoin just to go there, because I mean, there could be something like this. Yeah, so we could see a 1, 2, 3. Let me just move all of those up here. We could see a move like this, yeah, that Bitcoin just does a move like this, 3, 4, 5, and then bounces off here. Yeah, so this is the minimum target for this wave C. It should at least extend, if it's a wave C, down to $11,311 at the moment, roughly. And but you can see that this extension, this projectional target, lines up with this diagonal trend line. This is the big one that connects the all-time high of 2017 with the intermediary high of 2019. And those lines meet up, and this is, yeah, some kind of cluster that could again prove some kind of resistance. We could also or support. We could also just move this over here. Then we have another trend line that lines up with this. So yeah, we will just have to wait a little bit longer to get clearer patterns and wait what Bitcoin does. But essentially, this is also a possibility that we do not go down fully, but then just stop here. If this is the case, yeah, and we go up from here, this might be a very bullish sign, because that way this would only be a running C. This means that this low is higher than the previous low. And this is usually a very bullish sign and could indicate a very strong following move. If it's a strong impulsive move, that could very well take Bitcoin above this previous high, and maybe even towards this range. This is the range of the intermediary high of 2019. Yeah, so this is definitely a possibility for Bitcoin, but we will have to see about this, of course, especially with the whole corona pandemic thing that's coming up again worldwide, and the fact that the first time we got this corona pandemic problem, we dumped in Bitcoin pretty low, and Bitcoin got all the way down to $3,000. I do not personally expect a drop like this to happen again, but it could have some point of impact and maybe be a catalyst in some way, just to finally generate this downwards potential, and to make Bitcoin go below this trend line again, before hopefully finishing this correctional move and then hopefully breaking above this trend line again. But there's also a possibility that Bitcoin might go up just towards this trend line and then drop down again one step further towards $6,000 or $7,000. Yeah, so potential concrete targets would have to be determined once this move comes and once it is finished. Yeah, so those are the two criteria that we need in order to generate precise targets that we can say, okay, this is sensible and realistic that Bitcoin goes there. It's also, you can see, I moved this B up, yeah, and you can see that this 0.618 extension pretty much lines up with this previous retracement at roughly $8,000. So this C can also extend all the way down towards $8,000. And if this is the case, I would definitely argue and that it dramatically increases the chances of this already being the completed correction move. So if Bitcoin really drops down hard over the next couple of days or weeks and hits this area at roughly $8,000, I'm fairly confident that maybe this was it. Yeah, so this might be the area if Bitcoin goes down over the next couple of weeks, very strong, very impulsive. Yeah, so like something like this. Yeah, if Bitcoin goes down to this price range, there's a good chance that this is the lowest price that we will see in Bitcoin for a long time. So once this following correctional pattern is completed, there is a good chance that Bitcoin only goes up from here. And as you can see, I mean, yeah, like this price range, this was the low. It got never reached again, at least for the moment. And we even only got a low, which was roughly $500 or $700 higher. But this is probably a price range that I think we will not see in Bitcoin maybe ever again. Yeah, and the same would go if we were to drop in the $6,000, $7,000 range. There's a pretty good chance, in my opinion, that we will never see this price range again once we get here and then turn up and Bitcoin generates the next impulsive move. And yeah, essentially, but is essentially judging from a technical perspective. Yeah, so prices tend to go up over time. It's the same in gold and everything. So the longer you wait, prices go up, and at some point you reach the low. And especially with those commodities, which Bitcoin more or less is, you can see that prices tend to go up over time, and the longer you wait, yeah, prices have to go up at some point. Yeah, and yeah, essentially, so what I wanted to showcase once again is the MACD. On a daily basis, we are already in kind of an overbought status, so we are above neutral territory, and the lines started to move towards one another. So we will have to wait if they cross on a daily basis. This would maybe reinforce the weekly MACD, in which the lines have already crossed. This could be a sign for a longer extended correctional period, because every previous time we got this crossing of lines, we can see that we essentially got a very extended correctional period, like this one time. There we got a cross again next time. Yeah, so this is essentially or tends to be a sign for a correctional period. But then again, we are right now here, we are missing this pressure down essentially, and we are not that high or as high as we've been before in the MACD. So we are only at 674 roughly, which if you move back here would pretty much align with this price area. And there you can see that the line didn't get crossed. Yeah, so it stood positive both times. And but you can see that essentially from here the price of Bitcoin quintupled essentially. So yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe Bitcoin gets bought again, but we have been 3 times negative in a row. So yeah, Bitcoin is still in a very, very, very tricky situation. And we have the problem of a potential wave B. Yeah, wave Bs are always very hard to count and very unpredictable, because they can take nearly every correctional form that there's available. So they can form triangles, they can be 3-part moves, they can overextend. Yeah, so you can get an overshooting B, which goes higher and then lower. So those are very, very hard to predict intermediary moves, and so they are very hard to count and very hard to act upon, because essentially you don't really know what comes next. And once you really get this first impulsive pattern, this is why I said that it's so important to get an impulsive pattern. Once you really get this first impulsive pattern, then you can go and say, okay, I'm maybe 60% sure that this is an impulsive pattern, and we get a following move down. And this would indicate clearly that we are now in a wave C down. And right now I'm still missing this impulsive pattern, and maybe we will have to move this up once more towards, I don't know, 11,900, maybe towards the area of the previous high, maybe towards this right here. Yeah, so maybe we bounce off of $12,000 roughly. Yeah, it's very, very hard to anticipate at the moment, and but this is usually the case with wave Bs. Yeah, so nothing unusual here, and especially since it is Bitcoin, that's the Bitcoin likes to do what it does and what it wants, and yeah, so we will essentially just have to wait a little bit longer just for patterns to clear up. Right now, short-term basis, the range from 11,260 to roughly $11,500 or $11,550 or something like this is important. So if Bitcoin manages to break out to the downside or to the upside, and most importantly stay below or stay above, this might give us a hint as to expect maybe a further incline of $500 up to $12,000 or 400 to 11,900, or if we maybe see a wave 3 down finally, which would be wave 3 of this wave 1, which should be significant. So if this comes to the downside, we will probably see Bitcoin break this low and maybe stop somewhere in the region of 10,822 or something. So this is definitely a possibility. So I really expect, if Bitcoin breaks down heavily, a strong red candle just to mark this very strong sell-off, and finally create this impulsive move that would finally increase the chances of this move down being this wave 1. And if we get a completed wave 1, we can speculate on a wave 2 up and a coming wave 3 down. Yeah, so this is essentially the situation in Bitcoin at the moment. So we'll have a really, really close look at this range right here. And in my opinion, if I would have to put percentages on scenarios, I'm leaning maybe 51% towards a breakdown, 49% towards a break up, yeah, or maybe 52% towards a breakdown and 48% towards a break up. So I think it's slightly more probable that we go down essentially in the Bitcoin price, and I really hope so that we do, and that Bitcoin doesn't take any longer with this sideways pushing, but instead generates some concrete patterns and just gives us something to count and to work with. So this would be really nice essentially. Okay, so that's it for Bitcoin for the moment. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.